Register now at Rotary Central Facebook page or call 936-1344. Every Gumball Rally dollar will serve Rotary Central mental health projects. Rotary Central. Serve to change lives.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dan. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our unfolding story of relaying our history in the most respectful, joyful, and appreciative manner. Welcome to Retro's Talk Today special presentation, a program here focusing on the story of the Nunoca, a modern Cayman ship of its era which sailed from Georgetown on the 4th of July 1936, some 85 years ago, with 22 people, souls on board, 14 passengers, and a crew of 8. Its destination was Tampa, Florida, and was never seen or heard from again. For the folks who are listening and watching on YouTube, you can see an image of the Nunoca ship that was 85 years ago. 110 feet long, the Nunoca was built between 1931 and 1932 in Archie Shipyard on South Church Street in Georgetown, the present site of the Hard Rock Cafe. It was registered in the Cayman Islands Shipping Registry as belonging to the Caribbean Motorboat Company, and later registered in 1935 or 1936 to C.G. Colonel and H.O. Marion Company. This story of the Nunoca is such complexity that we would only be able to substantially highlight some of the areas associated with the ship's disappearance, and in tribute and high respect and recognition of Sarah Retro's creator and producer, Mr. Loxley Banks. So I return to you with not just a graciousness and a gratitude, not just a sense of humility and respect, but an appreciation that this story is one that, unfortunately, still to this day, is unnerving and strikes a nerve with us. So thank you, sir, for the courage, the diligence, the persistence, the perseverance, and the manner in which you help us to appreciate that our history is so rich and vibrant, and yet untold and unappreciated by us. Thank you, sir.
Well, I don't know if I can go on after that. But anyway, yeah, thank you, Sterling. And it's good to be hosting with you today. To accomplish this feat today, of course, we have in the studio with us some guests who will give us some insights as to, what could have happened to the Nunoca. And first of all, we got, we're not going to say his age, but he has spent he has spent a lot of time on the sea, Captain Paul Hurston. Captain Paul, good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And I know that you have some memories of the day, actually, I suppose, that the Nunoca left, and we'll get around to that a little later.
I do.
Yeah. And also we have Captain Owen Farrington, and he's been sailing the seas for a long time and somewhat close association with the Nunoca story. Cap, glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and he'll also have some little narrative that connects us up to what it was like during that period when 22 souls was lost at sea on the Nunoca, and there was not any closure to the families, and included a lot of people. Could have been 25, 30, 40% of the population at that time, because she had 22 people on board, and they all had families, some of them big families.
Right.
And we also have with us Captain Mark Bothwell. And he spent a lot of time here in the local waters, and he's I guess a U.S. Navy licensed captain. Is that right, Mark?
Coast Guard, yeah.
Coast Guard, yeah, yes. And he has close connection, or family connection with this Nunoca, as he is a third generation down from fourth generation down. See that? Fourth generation down from his great grandmother, and I guess would be young grand uncle, who was lost on the Nunoca. Mark, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And you're still selling these Cayman waters, are you?
Yeah, still trying to catch a big one.
Okay, still trying to catch a big one. And we were expecting another guest, but these days he's pretty busy, so we'll just move on here. And the story of the Nunoca is really a gripping story in that it left here, and there have not been, over the last 85 years, a lot of substantial evidence that would tell us really what happened to her. But we've dug through the archives, Tampa Tribune, Library, and Miami Herald, and Miami News, and they all carried stories, United Press International. In fact, you'll see a little later a clip, or an image of a clip that said Caymanian people come into focus. But from the CI Retro's Wattle Vault, we also have some recorded narrative during the program, as well as press reports on the Nunoca's, or the Nunoca's, disappearance from that time. And we keep mentioning the Nunoca. Now, that's for some of you folks who may not know, she replaced an older ship that was called the Nunoca. And that's another story that somebody might want to tackle. Captain Paul, you think so? This CI Retro presentation is being brought to you by Cayman Coating, Cayman's leading supplier of exterior wall finishes and paints, so called Cayman Coating. And also by MJS Plumbing. MJS can handle all your plumbing needs efficiently without delay. Also by Office Supply, your back-to-school supply headquarters. And by the Diner in West Bay at 38 Town Hall Road, just past the four-way intersection. Sponsoring this show also is Puritan Cleaners, with 3 locations to serve you: Eastern Avenue, Elgin Avenue, and Savannah Countryside. And also Thompson Shipping. Call Thompson for all of your inner and off-island shipping needs. And I think it's about time that we move to a commercial break here, because a lot of traffic today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. We are a non-for-profit member-centric plan with a democratically elected volunteer board of trustees representing all sectors of the Cayman Islands economy. Chamber Pension has an all-in expense ratio of 0.72% over 16,000 members, $430 million in assets under management. We were the first multi-employer pension plan approved by the regulator in the late 1990s. And today, we are still strong, secure, and are here for employees and employers alike. If you would like to join or request further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
When I was growing up in Cayman, Sundays was always a big day for our family. Everyone would go to Granny's house for Sunday dinner after church. Even today, I can still smell the aroma of all the delicious food we used to eat, especially the hot, fresh baked bread smothered in butter, topped off with our favorite pan cheese. These days, I don't have enough time to cook and bake, but I do my best to carry on the Sunday tradition of family meals, and being able to get hot, fresh bread with no preservatives or additives from Caribbean Bakery is a big help for me. Shh, don't tell them, they still think I baked it. Caribbean Bakery, now delivering every Sunday to McGrath's grocery store in Eastern Avenue and Marina Drive. Caribbean Bakery, made Cayman fresh.
Look at you, listening to the radio, tuning in, getting stuff done. Total doer. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're getting your oil changed or grabbing some chicken. Maybe you're doing something that's nobody's business but yours. Hey, that's cool. We're all doing something. Now you can join a whole new community of doers doing more on findyellow.com. With custom search, local experts, and trusted reviews, whatever you're doing, get it done on findyellow.com.
Office Supply is a win-win. Come get geared up for back to school with big savings. You'll save 10, 15, or 20% off your purchase depending on how much you spend. Scientific calculators from $2.95, pencil cases from $1.99, and much more. And enter to win with our back to school drawings, including a chance to win one of 2 laptops, printers, or tablets. Office Supply, widest selection, lowest prices. Email b2s at officesupply.ky or call 946-1200 today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Okay, gentlemen, we will now get into some of the existing theories and reports. Another important information concerning the Nunoca's tragedy. And, you know, a lot of conditions, a lot of variance, you know, is mixed in with this story. Weather conditions, the ship's seaworthiness and condition. Of course, it was a new ship, 4 years old, 3.5 years old. And, of course, the engine problems that it was experiencing on the eve that it left. And there's a lot of speculation about that. And the crew skill level experience. You know, and that's something that comes in here with you, Captain Durano, with, we surmise, and we believe it to be accurate, she had an experienced crew on board. And for a ship to disappear with nobody getting off it, or not even any really substantive evidence, you know, it's really a mystery. Captain Paul, you want to do 7 seconds on that?
Yeah, but when you go, as far I don't wait on anybody, I was burnt down. I had a little bit of experience in that. So and being a wooden hull, they didn't have a chance. That happened so fast that they didn't have it. They didn't. And those days, you know, it wasn't like how it is now. They didn't have too much firefighting equipment or anything aboard it. On those days.
I guess the image was you're all around water, so
yeah, I don't know if they had any fire pumps or anything like that.
Probably not.
I don't believe that. Probably they didn't even have life jackets. Cause
they had safety equipment on board. Captain Owen, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, it's from the first time I heard this story, and of course this had happened before I was born. I think about it. I think, Lord, tell me what happened to the ship, because there's been a lot of stories, and a lot of things could have happened, but we just don't know, and it's really one of the mysteries. And being people out of the sea, that's us Caymanians, we would be interested in knowing, or hopefully could find out more of really what happened.
Captain Mark, I know you're fourth generation down, and I guess the story still resonates with you.
Yes, definitely. Growing up, I heard a lot about it through my family, especially my grandmother. She would always daily talk about her mother and her brother that she lost, and we always heard the stories from my entire family all our lives, and it's kind of sad that they never found anything or anyone, or even a wreckage would have been better than nothing, because there was never no closure. And my family, a lot of my uncles, Uncle Sam and all, they all died and never did have a closure. So that was I guess the hardest part of the whole thing.
Well, I think that is one of the very important elements in this whole story, that nobody had closure, as he said, and I guess I better declare right here now. You're speaking of Sam. He was my uncle, and of course, my grandmother, and my namesake Loxley, my youngest uncle, was on it. Was also lost on it, and speaking of Sam, who we're going to hear from a little later, and I'll repeat this, and it wasn't too long before he passed away. We were riding down 7 Mile Beach Road, and he said to me, and I sometimes got a little emotional. He said to me, "Will you call me Loxley? I want you to do something for me." I said, "What is it, Uncle Sam?" He said, "I want you to," and the words he used, it'll stick in my mind forever and ever, "I want you to burn me up and throw me down in the Gulf." And that was the route that the Nunoca would have taken to go to Tampa, where my mother and my brother is.
Oh, he always said that.
Yeah.
He always said that.
But Mr. Loxley, as you sharing, and as people listening would appreciate it, this is yesterday for us. And last week when you were previewing this is still a raw nerve. Each one of us personally touched by this. Mark and I were not born like Captain Hoey, and even though we almost close in age as Captain Hoey, no, we're not. That has resonated and touched us personally, and to see the emotion as people listening, it isn't with a lot of courage and emotion that we share the story. No.
But I ran into a Caymanian banker at Foster's just 2 days ago, and he heard the promos, and he's been in banking a long time, and he came up to me, he says, and he called me Lucky. Lucky, how come I don't know anything about this story? Yeah. And he's about, I would say he's in his mid-50s. He says, how come I don't know anything about this story? Yeah. I said, well, my friend, I guess it was omitted in all of our schoolings and in all of this thing, and the maritime heritage being so important to this community over the years, and it's still very important,
But before you go to the clip, right, and I say this carefully, respectfully, you just said outside, Mr. Loxley, that the people on board, even though if you count the number, you don't realize that how much of that of our existing population at the time that represented. Almost every family, was directly affected. And every person in the country knew somebody and was impacted. But almost 100 years later, we still feel it.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to the short clip that's coming up, I'll continue on some of the relevant points that could have affected what happened to the Nunoca. Of course, she was a ship with 28. Well, listen to this: 28 first class and 20 second class passenger berths. Staterooms. The press of the day said she had staterooms. They were all single staterooms, according to the information, and they were wood paneling inside. Okay, varnished cypress doors, and well ventilated was the way they described it. And this is taken from an article that Arthur Niebanks wrote, well, within the last 2 or 3 weeks for the National Archive on the 85th anniversary of the loss of the Nunoca. And it went on to say that the building, or the cost at the time, was £400. Now, Sterling, you the macho mathematician, convert that to today.
I'll actually look at what I wrote down earlier and give that number in a second.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, that's akin to vessels of this day that are luxury.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I look at what I did and give that back to you after the clip.
Yeah. But we're going to go, or maybe just to sort of maintain some continuity, if DJ over there is ready for the next commercial group, we could move on to that. Maybe at the end, we got a lot of material to go. And we'll wind this in here. We expect that we would want to take some calls at the end of the program once we have delivered all of the narrative and so forth that we have, because we don't want to get bogged down in too much, as some folks would say, yeah. So, but if you're ready to take that next commercial break, DJ, we'll take it and then we'll go to the clip.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast, and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vantmotors.com, or stop by Vamp's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Ready, set,
Gold! Enjoy the latest and greatest sports events live on SportsMax. With every Digicel Prime bundle, get dedicated data for your SportsMax app so you can catch all the live action and more right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Get your 30-day Digicel Prime Bundle Plus for only $55 and start watching, because catching gold is better on a bundle. Digicel, better together.
MJS Plumbing is your best choice for a fast, efficient, friendly, and high-quality plumbing service. Call MJS at 916-4549 for all of your plumbing needs. MJS Plumbing.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Well, I'm not Sterling, but we're back.
We're back.
We're right back. And before we move on to that next cut, we would like to remind you also that CI Retro's Talk Today, the Nunoca story, is being brought to you by The Diner, located at 32 Town Hall Road in West Bay, just past the four-way stop junction. And you can visit The Diner for all of your delicious Caymanian dishes. They do a great job there in preparing those Caymanian dishes, and they serve breakfast all day long. And they're open 6 days a week, closed on Mondays. And it's also being brought to you by Cayman Coating, 949-2920 at 96 Portland Road, Airport Industrial Park. And that's where you'll find all of your painting and wall finishes at Cayman Coating. 949-2920 is the telephone number. So we'll move on now to that clip that we were talking about, said that we would have for you. And it's from a short narrative from Mr. Reginald Parsons, who was 10 years old at the time. And this was recorded some years later by the Cayman National Archives Memory Bank. And as it states in the narrative, he is believed to be the last one to touch the Nunoca as she sailed out to sea. So we'll listen now.
In December 1952, while reading the latest issue of the Saturday Evening Post, I was attracted by a serial titled The Secret of the Purple Reefs, written by Dorothy Cottrell, whose name immediately made me remember a lady with the same name who had visited Grand Cayman around the time of the disappearance of the Nunoca. I remembered Dorothy because she was the first person I'd ever seen in a wheelchair. Consequently, she, her husband, and dog were etched in my memory. The serial, which ran for 8 installments, was the story of the loss of a motor vessel on the Purple Reefs, and anyone familiar with the disappearance of the Nunoca will recognize it as a fictionalized version of her loss. Added to the fact that Dorothy had visited Grand Cayman to gather the information which she needed, her version is another of the many versions of this Cayman vessel's disappearance. I imagine that Mervyn Panton and I were the last two Caymanians to have contact with the Nunoca. We were swimming in Mr. Malley's Bay when she reversed from her moorings. We held on to her bow and were pulled by her past the edge of the shore. After we let go our hold, she continued reversing, turned around to disappear into the unknown.
Well, you heard that audio there. And he mentioned Mr. Malley's Bay, but that's actually Hogstye Bay, Captain Ball.
No, that's well, you wouldn't recognize that. That's where the port is now.
The little bay that was in there, general vicinity of Hogstye Bay.
That was called Mr. Malley's Wharf. It was just Iron Shore.
Yes,
Iron Shore.
In fact, as I remember, his store, I think, was on, as you look out to sea, was on the right of the what would have been called the main dock at that time.
Yes.
A big two-story building.
That's the rock that she was tied up into, right in that.
And, he mentioned the name Dorothy Cottrell, and I think she actually wrote a book somewhere along the line. maybe I got the names wrong. I thought I had the book at home trying to find it, but because she wrote a book, the title slips me, and she made mention of the Nunoca in it, and I was not aware that she had written a serial for the Saturday Evening Post on it, fictional series as Mr. Parson mentioned, but there was a lot of we call it press on the Nunoca's disappearance back in those days, and we're gonna be looking at some of those press reports a little later, and in fact, I think if we can bring up on the screen there,
yes, sir,
some of those press reports, but we'll look further at some of the suppositions and theories around the Nunoca's disappearance, and a bit of information here to help us along with this. We know that the Nunoca, when she left Georgetown that afternoon, and those of you listening and viewing on the YouTube channel, you'll see the extent, some of those press reports that came up on the day. You see the date, July 22nd, 1936, so that was just 20 or 18 days after she left Cayman. So there are various of those reports that's coming all along, and we'll get to them a little further down the line. But we mentioned that there are so many aspects to the Nunoca's disappearance, and the engine, and as you'll hear a little further down the line in the narrative from Sam Henning, that she was smoking like heck. I don't know, Captain Paul, you were 5 years old at the time?
Yeah.
So you were not down in the vicinity that day?
No, I was at home. Because I said when Mr. Byron Bush, he was very close with my brother. He stopped there by the house to say goodbye. I remember dressed in a black pants and a white shirt.
Yeah. Well, one of my uncles, Ivan Bawden, from Northside, and I think you might have known Ivan, probably maybe Captain Owendo. He related to me that on the eve that it was a Saturday evening, I think that she left her, the engineer, Hopkins Ebanks, had sent a message to him that he wanted to see him before he left. They were both engineers, and he went down to the dock and told the folks on the ship that he was here to see Hopkins. And he said, Mr. Hopkins, and this was his words to me, came up out of the engine room, and he said he could not recognize him because he was covered in, I guess you call it smut, and smut. He was working on the engines. In fact, I believe that the ship had been delayed somewhat because they were having engine trouble, and that also played it, I think, later on down the way when the Nunoca didn't arrive in Tampa on time. The agent in Tampa apparently was saying, excuse me, well, they were having engine trouble, so, she'll be here tomorrow. But, the next day, Captain Samuel Henning, that is the senior, whose wife and young son was on it, he got very concerned, and he notified the Coast Guard, and thus, a search began. But it's such a riveting story, and a little later we're going to read out the passenger list on it, and I'm sure that list will touch a lot of people, here in Cayman, because as we said, there were 22 souls on board, and the ship was never hurt or seen since. And I think one of the things that probably compounded the situation back in those days, well, as we mentioned before, the ship had no radio communications. And after it was determined that she was missing, there was a lot of erroneous statements and erroneous reports coming out, which you'll see a little later, some of the press reports relating to that. And it made it difficult for everybody here in Cayman. And Captain Nolan, you might like to pipe in here with what you recall, because your father-in-law was on the ship, and what you recall your mother-in-law telling you about just one of these reports that came back.
Yeah, Loxley, it was a tough time for everyone, and she was subject to high blood pressure, and we were all worried that she would probably grease out. But one day I thought she looked pretty good, and I asked her if she remembered the date, because, well, I'd say it wasn't important, but it was a discrepancy. Some said the 4th, some said the 6th. She said it was July the 6th. I said, okay. And she told me of walking from Mount Pleasant to South Sound to see
Leighton Bush.
The Leighton Bush, because his son was on it, and that he had gotten a letter from someone telling him he had seen this man, and anything you heard, they tried to go over it. It was a rough time. And look, all I can say is that mystery has bothered me the whole of my life. I wish that at some time before I leave here that I would know what happened. When I wrote what I did the other day in the Times paper, I see the fruit of it today. I was hoping that someone would read it and say, well, he forgot to mention so-and-so, and they call in today and say it. But that was the main reason why I called, because, and I didn't remember until he called me and says, there's that 85th anniversary coming up. I hadn't remembered that, but I sure remembered all the stories I heard, prior to that. And I knew that my late father-in-law was on there. I knew Mr. Hopkins was on there, and they were the only two that I could really relate to, And of course, I wasn't born yet. But I heard that story many times, and it will continue to, because we haven't. The only thing I can add, also, since I wrote what I did in the Times, I was talking to Mr. Richard Arch. He said, I'm glad you wrote that article. And I said, well, hopefully someone will come up with something else. He said to me, well, did you know that they found a drum in Galveston, Texas, with Mike Ferguson name on it? You guys would remember, and I wasn't born, but I remember when Mike Ferguson had the pump, right, the gas pump. He had to pump the gas like this.
Right.
So, I mean, that wasn't impossible to find a drum with his name on it. I don't know where that came from, but that's the only thing I had to add, Loxley.
Well, there are reports, and we'll flash them up there, as we go along, that makes reference to a drum being found, and various other little pieces of wood and so forth and so on. But right now we're coming up pretty close to news time, and I think we got some commercials that we can get in, and then when we come back, we'll further explore the disappearance of the Nunoca.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on their variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@cspc.ca. candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Ready, set, gold! Enjoy the latest and greatest sports events live on SportsMax. With every Digicel Prime bundle, get dedicated data for your SportsMax app so you can catch all the live action and more right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Get your 30-day Digicel Prime Bundle Plus for only $55 and start watching, because catching gold is better on a bundle. Digicel, better together.
MJS Plumbing is your best choice for a fast, efficient, friendly, and high-quality plumbing service. Call MJS at 916-4549 for all of your plumbing needs. MJS Plumbing.
Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart. The soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. Due to recent high tides and heavy rainfall, the Mosquito Research and Control Unit is expecting to combat an increase in biting mosquitoes within the coming weeks. MRCU will be conducting control operations to fight the emergence, but mosquito numbers are expected to remain high for the next 2 to 3 weeks. What can you do? Well, you're advised to use mosquito repellent, throw out any standing water near your home, and avoid the outdoors during dusk and dawn when mosquitoes are most active. In international headlines, new evidence showing the Delta variant is as contagious as chickenpox and may be more dangerous than other versions is prompting U.S. health officials to consider changing advice on how the nation fights the coronavirus. Internal documents obtained by the Washington Post reveal the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is considering recommending masks for everyone and requiring vaccines for doctors and other health workers. U.S. wages and salaries rose at a healthy pace in the 3 months ending in June as employers competed to find enough workers to fill millions of available jobs. The Labor Department says pay increased 1% in the second quarter for workers in the private sector, down slightly from 1.1% in the first 3 months of the year, but still the second highest reading in more than a decade. And former U.S. President Donald Trump urged senior justice officials to declare the 2020 election results corrupt in a December phone call, according to handwritten notes from one of the participants in the conversation. The House Oversight Committee released the notes to the public today. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And we're back, and we're trying to tell the story of the disappearance of the Nunoca, modern Cayman Islands ship of its era, 85 years ago, on July the 4th, I think, is the established day that she departed Georgetown, headed for Tampa with 22 people on board, and was never heard of again. If you've been listening, you've heard some discussion here of various elements that they surmised came from the Nunoca, but I don't think that there was any substantive evidence of really what happened to her, other than people's, and that is people with experience, maritime experience and sea time, surmise that could have been really what happened to the Nunoca. And we move along here. We look at some of the suppositions and theories surrounding the Nunoca's disappearance. To help us listen, or to help us, we listen to a short narrative from Sam Henning. Now, Sam Henning was the 10-year-old brother of his younger brother, Loxley Henning, who was on board the Nunoca with his mother, going to Tampa to spend time with her husband and his father, Captain Samuel Henning, who was at that time captain of one of the super yachts of the day, and he thought that his wife and young son would enjoy a little vacation down to Tampa and Miami and spend some time with him. He couldn't get away from the job he had apparently, and so they were on their way to spend some time with him. Telling his remembrances of that day, which was recorded some 73 years later, Sam's father, Captain Henning, was in Tampa, as we mentioned, waiting for the arrival of the Nunoca. And we'll get that clip now from Sam Henning. And the clip is it's about 8 minutes long. So, DJ?
Lux, I can't remember the date in July that the Nunoca left Georgetown Harbor with my mother and my brother. I'm not sure about the date. The weather was very nice, and I left with her in a taxi from West Bay and went into town to the Georgetown docks where the Nunoca was docked at, and I seen her aboard and kissed them goodbye, and she said everything was going to be all right, and it was a bunch of other passengers there from West Bay and different places. Altogether, I think it was 12 or 14 passengers. But while I was up there, I was waiting for them to depart, and the chief engineer, Mr. Hopkins, he was working on the engine, and he was having problems with the engine, and he started it up. I remember somebody saying it was a bull in the engine, and he had to heat the heads of the engine to get it to start. And he tried to start it, and he couldn't get it. The engine started, and he shot out a big puff of black smoke. And anyway, he cut off the engine. He worked on it, and I think he finally got it started, and he ran it in neutral for a while at the dock, and all the passengers, the captain was Captain Colonel, I forget his first name, and he came down and he went aboard, and he called everybody, and he told them that the engine was fixed, and they were going to leave in a little while. Anyway, all the passengers went aboard and stood up on the rail, waving goodbye to their relatives and friends, and I stayed there till she undocked and left. I was with some other people from West Bay there, waving goodbye, and they undocked, headed out in, I called it a southwesterly direction. The course that he picked off to leave was not a regular course that the other mariners used to take to go to Tampa. The course that he picked off seems to me like he was heading more for Honduras. But anyway, let's leave that alone, because every captain got his own way to navigate. And anyway, I was in this taxi with a friend of mine, and after they undocked and headed out, and I think the chief engineer, Mr. Hopkins, he had the engine under control, seemed like, and it was puffing away and heading, I called it to the southwest of Georgetown. I told the taxi driver, says, let's go on down to West Bay, and I want you to take me around Northwest Point so I can wave goodbye to him. But anyway, by him taking this southwest course, took her quite a distance away from Northwest Point to the south. They couldn't see me waving, I think. But anyway, I seen them going there, and she was puffing and going. She was smoking quite a bit. And that was the last I seen of any transaction on that trip with the Nunoca. All I can tell you about that now is My dad was waiting for them to arrive in Tampa in, I think it was 3 days. And after she didn't show up, I think it went on to 5 days. And my dad, he finally got the Coast Guard to go to make a search. And they couldn't find anything. They found a few pieces of life jackets and stuff like that, but nothing major. So far as I can tell you, that's about all I know about it. And we haven't heard anything or seen anything from anybody to tell us what really happened to the Nunoca.
Next, I want you to tell me on your way home that night, because you watched the boat out of sight, what you saw. Or
Well, the sun had set then, and I was going back home up through the back there, through the back road, and this big shadow was following me and right ahead of me, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I told my people about it, my sisters about it, and I told them, I said, there's something wrong. I said, I see this ghost, and Lula, one of my aunts, and Lula used to help me out. She used to stay with us a lot of times, and I was telling her about it. She said, don't worry about it. She said, it'll be all right. That happened when I came down from Georgetown and was trying to get home.
do you remember when the news came that she hadn't arrived in Tampa?
I think my dad sent that telegram from Tampa because he was out with the Coast Guard looking for them. I think it was going into 6 days at that time. He sent a telegram to the officials in Georgetown making them know that the Nunoca had not arrived in Tampa and that they should put in a search. But they didn't have that to search with. They had one old ship there. I don't think she was even on the. She was running between Jamaica and Cayman, the Simboco. But the Simboco finally got to Georgetown, and they went out on her a certain distance down towards an island and searched down there, but they didn't find anything. But a story was out from another mariner that was running a ship that used to go by Cayman and was flying between Honduras, Cayman, and Jamaica. I think it was one of the Cacunan boats was passing by at the same time that the Nunoca was supposed to be in that vicinity, and they reported they had seen a ball of fire down in the vicinity where the Nunoca should have been. This is a story that came out later from the captain on that boat.
Do you remember anything about when the family actually sort of realized the Nunoca is gone? We're not going to hear anything from them. Do you remember any that time?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't but 2 or 3 days, 4 or 5 days after that your mother and your Dee and all the rest of the family realized that Luna and that me Belle, they all got together and they realized that the Nunoca was missed. It was gone, presumed gone. I being a little boy, I'm out the boat playing and fooling around, and I still held out hope, because every evening I used to go out on the beach and take a look out the direction where she was heading when they left, but I didn't see anything.
Did you have any conversations with your dad about what might have happened to the Nunoca?
No, sir. He didn't know. He didn't want to talk to them. He was so hurt that he couldn't talk to people. But he did have some conversations with the Coast Guard in Tampa. In fact, he went out on one of the Coast Guard boats and made a search from Tampa. Went out around, you call Egmont Key, and I think they went beyond that, down towards the western tip of Cuba, they call it Cape San Antonio. He went that far down looking to see if they could find anything pertaining to the Nunoca, but that's all they found was those pieces of life jackets and so forth.
Mr. Henning, Sam, you sailed the seas for, I guess, 40 years. What is your opinion of what you think happened to the Nunoca?
Well, I had two opinions, but I got it broke down to one. I think having the chief engineer having a lot of problems with the engine, I believe that they had an explosion in the engine room and she caught on fire, and she being a wooden hull and having a bunch of oil drums, because they used to transport oil in drums up on the upper deck where the lifeboat was.
Well, you heard that narrative, and there's lots of questions, I guess, raised in that. And, you know, he mentioned the lifeboats, and there was also some staterooms, I think, on what would have been the second deck. And back in those days, all the fuel, and I believe I'm correct in saying this, Captain Paul, all the fuel or oils that came into Cayman
came in drums.
Came in 55 gallon drums, and she probably had a lot of empties on board, which could have been a contributing factor if the fire did erupt. That, you know.
Because the empty drums is more dangerous than the full ones.
Yes, because there's a lot of fumes in there.
Yes.
And some of the things that they mentioned, you know, the ship engine was smoking. He said he mentioned that he thought it kind of headed in a southwesterly, but well, he made clarification. I said some captains, and he went down to Northwest Point, because usually going on that route they would hug that point, closest point.
Do you have any information that the engine was what we call a hothead?
Yes. In fact, he mentioned that I think in this narrative.
He did?
Yes.
Bullen?
Yeah, Bullen. Yes.
Yeah. When the guy said that to me, I said, no, I didn't know that.
Well,
could I ask then for you to clarification the hothead in today's is somewhat would have.
Captain Paul, maybe.
Yeah. Hothead is where the engines are sitting there and you're getting ready to fire her up. Okay. Well, they had different methods of putting these hot things in there, but they used to make wicks, and you screw them into the head, and you had two guys ready to crank the engine, because you got a compression off, and when he said throw it on, he throw it on, and she started. So like I said, they had different ways of heating up. I remember one engine called a Ailsa Craig, and we call them cigarettes out of blotting paper and saltpeter. They used to fuse, and so that's all I knew about a hothead. But they had different other things to use.
Well, the Simboco had similar Bullen hothead, and I can remember they used to heat them with a blowthroat.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Yes.
The blowthroat.
Big blowtorches.
Big blowtorch. And heat the head, because you could hear it. And you know, those days when one of those vessels leave, everybody was out there to see who was going, and when they returned to see who come. That's the only place you got news from then those days. So I can visualize, and I can hear that blowtorch heating that blowtorch about an hour before she's ready to sail.
And you know, this hothead theory relates back to the engineer coming up with smut loaded, you know, covered in smut, so it's a lot of mysteries, and I don't suppose that we'll probably ever really know really what happened to the Nunoca, but you know, and well, you know, he mentioned. That is Sam in the narrative. But the family, now that was not the only family that was affected by that. There were probably another 22. Well, probably more than that. You know, could have been up to 50 families that were connected with this. And I think, Sterling, you had a clarification that some... Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And this is where I think we see the interconnectors of our community. So, a listener off air heard us earlier when we reference, let me go back to the make sure, you know, the first clip from Reginald Parsons. Now in West Bay there's a Captain Reginald Parsons Road, but there's also a Georgetown Reginald Parsons, and they were asking about which of the two. Is it the West Bay Mr. Captain Reginald Parsons, or the Georgetown Mr. Reginald Parsons? Mr. Loxley?
No, it was the Georgetown Reginald Parsons, I believe, Captain, Mr. Eddie Parsons.
Eddie Parsons used to be clerk of the courts.
Yes.
Because he was also a chemical engineer, also in original parts.
Yes,
he worked with
for
Texaco and those big oil companies a long time. He had a memory. I knew him very well.
All right, thanks. So, Mr. Law, it just shows you that, you know, this vessel, from the crew to the passengers to all who saw her off, this went across all 3 islands. And even today, you know, I admire the courage of all you, and again, Mr. Lockstead, for helping us to at least hear the story, if not try to understand.
Well, you know, like I said, you know, there was so many elements that played into this, because apparently the weather was fair weather all, you know, all during those days. And a little later on in the program, you'll see some of those clips or images of those clips that will come up that will mention where the about the ball of fire on the horizon. And I don't know, I believe Captain Owen, you might remember talking about reports coming back home, which you spoke to a little while ago. I remember, and I guess it was about 1952, it had to be 51 or 52, that a letter came home to a family here, actually Mary Ellie, who was in Miami.
Yes.
Yeah, wrote the letter saying that she had seen the engineer, Mr. Hopkins. Now, and that really caused a lot. Yeah, and it had some reliability to it, as this lady lived next door to Mr. Hopkins. So if somebody was going to see Mr. Hopkins, you know, she would know who it was. But I mean, you recall it? You recall
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh yes. She would have knew who he was, and like you say, lived next door, and all that part of it was. But now authenticity of her actually seeing him, you know, came into question. I mean, no one else could back it up and say, yeah, because I was there or something, you know. So.
Well, you know, you just used the word backup, and I think we mentioned it before we got on the air here, that all of these theories, there is nothing that you can fact check them against,
right?
Because the Nunoca is gone.
Well, it was also a friend of mine that had seen Clive Hines from the Pink Place there. His father, he said that he seen Byron in New Orleans, and he, but I can't remember just the story, but he tried to get his. They made arrangement that it would meet somewhere again. He had his father, because he was young like much. He just a couple of years older than me, and his father. He tried to get his father, but when he showed up, they were supposed to rendezvous in such a place. But when he never did show up, because he said he's probably seen his father with him.
So Captain Paul, who he said with Byron?
Huh?
Who was Byron?
Brent's uncle.
Brent's uncle. Okay.
Mark, you've been listening to all this. I know.
Yeah, just listening to all the stories, and obviously, you know, it's a long time ago, and I'm just trying to think in my head when I hear, like, you see, I heard the same story Uncle Sam said about the ball of fire and people reporting these things, but I'm just wondering, like, if that was the case, then that would be the place to look on the bottom, you know. Obviously, if a boat caught on fire, it would burn to the water line at least, but it should still be the bottom of the hull should still be
some part
of it. You should still find the prop or something, you know. So.
Well, I know you've been trying to track this down recently, because over the last, within the last year, as we all know, National Ocean, what's that, Sterling?
No,
National Oceanographic Administration. They have been tracking, or I guess imaging, I think that was the word they use, imaging the Gulf of Mexico's bottom, you know, all what's down there. And they've been doing, I think this project's been probably running for the last 6-7 years, and I think it's still going on. And there was a report that they came across a wreckage on the bottom that appeared to have burnt down to the waterline. The bottom was covered with copper, which was I don't think it was a prevalent, you could say, practice of the day, but there was many ships that put copper from the waterline down. Captain Paula, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Oh yes, to protect the
wood,
the wood from the
worms.
But I don't think that she had.
No, well,
that would be kind of expensive those days, and I don't think that. Because she would, to my knowledge, she would be the first one and the only one that had that kind of bottom.
I went on the website, on Noah's website, and did a lot of research, but I couldn't find anything in relation to.
Mr. Lordsley, this super yacht, was that the flight?
The flight, yes. And you know, that's just another sidebar. You can, since you mentioned it, you can just relate your story with that, and that was the super yacht that Captain Samuel Laureen Henning was captain of for many years. And you remember her?
Oh yeah, I remember that fast boat to go there. You had to see the speed boat. Oh yeah, I didn't know. I thought it might have been one before that.
No,
that was it.
Do you ever have a picture of that boat? The flight? You have a picture of it?
Yes. We got a picture of it, and you know, and this is a little sidebar to this. My aunt passed away now, and her husband, my uncle. She told me the story one time. We were just, talking about various things, and the flight came into question. And she said, "Look, I want to tell you this story. I haven't told anybody else, but I want to tell it to you." She said, now the flight, I think, had a speedboat. Yeah, and it was maybe the first speedboat to come to Cayman.
I believe that.
Yeah. And she said, now she was married to Captain Samuel's, Captain Laureen's son, and apparently Captain Laureen, my grandfather, gave, and I call his name Uncle Kearney, the boat, said, "Go and have some fun. Drive it, run it around." And there was something going on in West Bay right there at the four-way stop on the beach there. It might have been during Christmas time because the flight was here quite frequently, I understand. And he was taking all these ladies that were on the beach up and down, in his speedboat. And she said to me, "And you know something, Loxley? I stood on that beach all day. he never took me once in the boat."
I believe they used to call that a Chris Craft or something. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, it was one of the super yachts. I would say.
Yes, I remember.
It was one of the few private owned pleasure crafts of the day that had wireless communications, and it was crewed by full Caymanian crew, except for the wireless operator. Everybody else was Caymanian. My grandfather had a full Caymanian crew on the flight. And I believe it's about time we take a commercial. Commercial break, so DJ.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land. Explore your sister islands.
Although very similar to their Grand Cayman counterparts, organized religion in the Sister Islands was spearheaded by the work of Baptist ministers as opposed to Presbyterian missionaries who started the churches nearly 40 years after that in Grand Cayman. In May of 1885, Reverend J.H. Sobey, minister of the Second Baptist Church of Montego Bay, visited Cayman Brac at the invitation of the Brac seamen. During his visit, Reverend Sobey held the first service in a large house, and it was so overcrowded that the following day a tent had to be erected to have the service. In 1886, Reverend Sobey returned to Cayman Brac with Secretary of the Jamaica Baptist Missionary Society, Reverend E.J. Hewitt, in order to introduce Reverend H.W. Rutty as the Brac missionary worker. Congregations started at various settlements with the construction of 2 chapels in Stake Bay and the Creek. The progress would continue, and 6 months later, Reverend Rutty was ordained as a permanent missionary, and more congregations were formed in West End, Sport Bay on the east end of the island, and South Harbour in Little Cayman. Reverend Rutty's son and grandson would go on to become Cayman Brack's collector and Chief Justice of the Peace.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brack and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Summer, the season for backyard gatherings, beach parties, office socials, and camps for kids. Make the most of your summer party and leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters or double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway Box to Go, with the option of a 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. Cater your summer with Subway. Visit subway.ky for menu options. Subway, eat fresh.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Dreaming of a great career or degree? The Caribbean Examinations Council offers regionally and internationally recognized qualifications to help you get there. These include the Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence, CCSLC, the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, CSEC, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification, CVQ, Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, CAPE, and the CXC Associate Degree. These exams may be done while in school or out of school at private learning institutions. Visit cxc.org to learn more. With CXC, you're in control.
3T Cayman MRI is the patient-friendly MRI experience in the Cayman Islands. With the most advanced scanner on island, utilizing cutting-edge technology, and a team of highly trained radiologists and technologists with the experience that rivals any clinic in the world. Our suite is designed for patient comfort, with the largest patient opening of any scanner, and additional features to minimize anxiety during your scan. Come to 3T Cayman MRI for your patient-friendly experience. Learn more at 3tcayman.com.
Prospect residents are invited to a constituency meeting for Member of Parliament Miss Sabrina Turner, Honorable Minister of Health and Wellness, Saturday, July 31st from 4 to 6 p.m. at the constituency office, 33 Marina Drive. All Prospect residents are encouraged to attend. Saturday, July 31st from 4 to 6 p.m. Light refreshments will be served.
For the first time in over 45 years, the University College of the Cayman Islands is having an alumni homecoming gala dinner on October 28th. The event highlights the kickoff of the UCCI Alumni Network, a community of professionals helping the university and one another. If you're a UCCI graduate, join the network today and let your fellow classmates know about it. Visit ucci.edu.ky/alumni and come give us a hand with UCCI's first ever homecoming.
Thompson Shipping, a name synonymous with cargo and goods to and from the Cayman Islands. Thompson Shipping is agent for tropical shipping, offering all types of shipping services, container loads or partial container loads, with agents in many locations. Shipping to Little Cayman, Cayman Brack, or anywhere in the world. Call Thompson Shipping at 949-8044 or visit their website at www.thompsonshipping.com. Let Thompson Shipping take care of your shipping needs. Thompson Shipping, 949-8044.
Thompson Shipping.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And of course, the electrons were routed through Sterling and on to me here. So we're back, and just not to leave the flight story hanging. The flight was in service here in the Caribbean. The vessel was owned by the Lambert Pharmaceutical Company, which was the makers of Listerine. And one of the male members of the family was an avid underwater photographer. So they wanted a Caribbean captain that knew something about the waters. Thus, when my grandfather applied for the job and got it, and I think he was on the flight probably for about 15 years, and until the war came along, 1939-40. Well, actually, I think it wasn't confiscated by the Navy to be turned into a minesweeper until probably early 1942, after the day that lives in infamy with the attack on Pearl Harbor.
December 6, 41?
Huh?
Was that December 6, 41?
7th.
7th?
December 7th, 1941.
Yeah, Mark was 4 then.
But as we mentioned all along, it's quite an interesting story, and of all the information that has come out on it, as we mentioned, there's not much to fact check against. That's become a watchword nowadays, fact check. But the Nunoca has never been seen in 85 years, so they really can't fact check much. But I guess many of the theories is just people with experience speculating as to what might have happened, and it still remains a mystery today. Dwayne, I think
yes, sir.
You want to take and we'll tell them who the crew was on the.
Yes, sir. Well, this is the MS Nunoca for those who listen in the British registry. So if I could just maybe do what you had done earlier.
Yes.
Registered tons at 190, so not a small vessel. This says she sailed from Georgetown, Grand Cayman on the 4th of July 1936. And Captain O'Neill said, mother-in-law said, well, the 6th. Headed to top of Florida, USA as a destination with 22 passengers, which encompasses 9 crew and 13 passengers. The crew list as captain from Stake Bay in Cayman Brac was Captain Moses I. Kirkconnell. Mr. Merrill Scott from the Creek Cayman Brac was mate. The chief engineer was Mr. Hopkins Ebanks from West Bay, Grand Cayman. Second engineer from Newlands in Grand Cayman was Mr. Harold Borden. The third engineer was Mr. Oliver Tatum from Northside in Grand Cayman. Mr. Melvin Reed from the Creek in the Brac was the cook. And the 3 sailors were Mr. Edward Borden from the Point, Cayman Brac, Mr. Leonard Parchment from the Point, Cayman Brac, and from Spot Bay, Cayman Brac, as the 3rd sailor was Mr. Calvin Christian. Names that we recognize today, even as the tender years of me and Mr. Mark here can recall these names, but I'm sure everybody else in the country knows, and these are family members, and we know them.
Now, just think of all of the people in Cayman Brac that tragedy touched, and at that point, those days, I don't suppose that Cayman Brac had more than 900,000, 600 people. So you could surmise that almost everybody in Cayman Brac was touched. Yeah, touched by this tragedy.
But 2/3 of the crew were from the Brac.
Yes.
The captain and the crew.
Yes.
One West Bay, one from Newlands, one from Northside.
And I'm sure there are people listening when they hear these names. Some of them will probably say that was my grandfather.
Yeah.
As we believe that actually some of the officials in government today would relate to this. So the story goes on, and I'll continue with the passenger list. And the passenger list reads as, and this is actually from the registry, MS Nunoca, British Registry, which I think is our registry here, even though it's called British Registry. But the passenger list goes on as John Harold Eden, age 17, and he is the son of John Eden from Sulphur Springs, Florida. I guess he was home. He was home, probably taking in the Cayman scenery and eating some mangoes because it was July, things like that.
Swimming in the sea, yeah.
Yeah, yes. And Real Foster, son of Lambert Foster, Northeast Bay, Cayman Brac. Durbin Tibbetts, and the notation is, actually Durbin Tibbetts and Nellie Tibbetts, husband and wife, married couple living in Jacksonville, Florida. And you got to surmise that they were from Cayman Brac, I would think, yes. And Mrs. Lee Hunter? Or Mrs. Lee Hunter and Catherine Hunter. This was a mother and infant daughter. Byron Bush, who Captain Paul, you made reference to a while ago, son of Leighton Bush, South Sound, and the uncle of Mr. Brent Bush. And then we come to Mrs. Laureen Henning and Loxley Henning, age 6, and the wife of Captain Laureen Henning, Samuel Laureen Henning. And Lee Borden and John Borden, 2 brothers from West Bay. Now, which one of these was your father-in-law? Lee? Lee, yes, that's what I thought.
That was Albie father, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And they were from the Hill in West Bay, the little hamlet that still is in operation down there.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of stories about the Hill.
Good thing to be up on the Hill. I'm glad I was there in 2004.
Yeah, you better believe that. Yes. And then Mr. Lewis R. Warren and Mrs. Lewis R. Warren, U.S. citizens, and they were returning from their honeymoon in Cayman on that voyage. So, those are folks out there listening, Cayman from back 85 years ago, 90 years ago, 100 years ago, was an attractive honeymoon destination. Honeymoon destination. Now, you look at these 13 passengers or 14 passengers, because sometimes it's references 13 or 14. So 13 or 14 and 9 and 8. So we can take a pick there. But think of the families that was touched with all of this. I think, speaking of John and Lee Borden, they had at least, I would think, 4 or 5 siblings, six siblings. There was plenty of them. Yeah. And Mrs. Laureen Henning, Anisa Henning, actually was her name. I think in that immediate family, there were 7 or 8. Mark is trying to figure it out in his head. But it could have been 9 because I believe there was 7 children. 4 daughters and 3 sons. Yeah.
So 4 children, 1 child.
And of course, Mr. Byron Bush in South Sound. That was a big family. Came from a big family, and Harold Eden. Well, he was a 17-year-old, but there was so many people, and at that time, I would believe that the population of Cayman probably was not more than 2,500, maybe 3,500.
Yeah, not too many.
Well, so this the tragedy of the disappearance of the Nunoca touched a lot of people in Cayman, and as we mentioned, it's still, touching people. And
actually, Mr. Hopkins, all his children were born after he passed, right?
No. They were all. Marcus was the youngest one. Well, Marcus might have been born after he passed, after the Nunoca, but and they were
Guy,
yeah,
Thomas, and Trella, Anna Grace,
and Marcus,
and
of course Guy. Captain Paul, you knew Guy.
Yes,
Guy followed in his engineering professional father's footsteps.
Right. Guy was a good diesel engineer.
Yeah, it's so much, and I think we referenced this before. So much Cayman Islands history, and especially to connection with our maritime history that has not been told, and I think it may be lost if in the near future if it's not gathered up now.
It's a great part of it lost already.
Yes.
If I'm not disrespectful, and if I could just quickly weigh in Mr. Locksley as I listen and try to even contain my emotions and the people who are listening, who are messaging through WhatsApp and sharing, a comment by someone sort of sparks me to sort of almost relay what is being shared. It's obviously that this touches their lives in a very emotional way. And this person is asking, is that part of the reason why maybe we don't talk about these things? Because it's still very much raw, sore to us now, and so we're not sure how to talk about it. It brings back harsh memories, and so by not talking about it, then invariably and inadvertently, it's lost. And then over time, I was just wondering, I'm sitting here, and from the production in a month ago that you started bringing me into this discussion to the promo, I thought it was yesterday, but you said it was 2 weeks ago. It's still hard, and harder for you, and so is that part of it? Part of the things from the seafarers in the past who were lost at sea to this?
Well, I think it is. Well, you heard what Sam Henning made reference to his father.
Mm-hmm.
I think the words he used, oh, no, he did not want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of the immediate families didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think there's stories that needs to be told.
Yeah.
And if we don't tell them, then
they're going to be lost.
They're going to be lost.
Well, that's Cayman habit, or we do not blow our own bugle.
That's right.
There's so many stories that is it's not told, and we're reluctant. We don't blow our own bugle. So
we're reluctant to blow our own horn.
So I mentioned about the Majestic. That's the Nunoca was 36. Majestic was 41, I think, from what I remember. And we lost 27 men at that time. So I said to that guy the other day, I said, to lose 27 men in that period was a lick. I mean, and I believe, I'll go back over it and recheck, but I believe that 95% of those men were from Northwest Point.
Yeah, West Bay, Bruce Bay.
Yes, right.
Yes. There was a lot of West Bayers on that.
That's our next subject, huh?
Well, we produced a story back on the Majestic. I don't know how. Well, it was about 20
years ago.
About 1970, could have been 79, 80, and somehow I don't know where it's going, but we've been trying to find it, and but hopefully we'll find it. We think it's buried somewhere.
Yeah, maybe this will a little bit that I wrote will wake that up, like it woke up the Nunoca one.
Yes.
So,
but I believe that we got to take a commercial break.
Yes, sir.
So, DJ, I'm sure you got them lined up.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
Prospect residents are invited to a constituency meeting for Member of Parliament Miss Sabrina Turner, Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness, Saturday, July 31st from 4 to 6 p.m. at the constituency office, 33 Marina Drive. All Prospect residents are encouraged to attend. Saturday, July 31st from 4 to 6 p.m. Light refreshments will be served.
The following is a special announcement from the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association. The 6-Out Backpack Distribution continues this week in Cayman Brac. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman members, you can pick up your backpacks on Thursday and Friday, July 29th and 30th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Saturday the 31st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Seaman Center on the Bluff. Members are asked to please bring identification to speed up the collection process. If you are collecting bags on behalf of another member, please bring a written signed note from that member with a copy of their ID as well. Retired members, please make sure your membership is up to date for your collection of your bags. That's this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Seaman Center on the Bluff. 6-Up Backpack Distribution. We look forward to serving you, our members.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
3T Cayman MRI is the patient-friendly MRI experience in the Cayman Islands. With the most advanced scanner on island, utilizing cutting-edge technology, and a team of highly trained radiologists and technologists with the experience that rivals any clinic in the world. Our suite is designed for patient comfort, with the largest patient opening of any scanner, and additional features to minimize anxiety during your scan. Come to 3T Cayman MRI for your patient-friendly experience. Learn more at 3tcayman.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us on this special edition of CI Retro Talk Today presentation of the 85th anniversary of the Nunoca. And this belongs to the reverence and great respect in which you have helped us to touch a very personal story, but to remind our listeners of our great maritime heritage, a seafaring tradition of stalwarts who exhibited a skill that was sought, after, prior to this, and for decades after. A testament to the, Iron Men,
wooden
ships. And as we go through this and looking at the crew list and the passenger list and all that manifests, it just reminds us of how we are so interconnected with the sea, and how our seafaring legacy is truly, reminds us of salt water runs in our veins, our men, our women, and our daughters and sons.
demonstration of that is two gentlemen, well, three of them that we got sitting around the table here. We've got Captain Paul and Captain Owen, probably spent half their lives out at sea.
And thank God we had the sea. We didn't have anything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very few people really, what should I say, realize or brings to really important cognizance that the maritime or seafarers, and we're celebrating the year of the seafarer, they were the ones that built the foundation on which
that's right.
You see all these modern Cayman Islands built on. If it wasn't for their contribution and their actually sacrifice, we lost many people at sea.
Mm-hmm.
We just touching on a few of them. I mean, during the break, we were talking about the Hustler, and we were talking about the Majestic.
Right.
The Alston from Cayman Brack.
The Alston from Cayman Brack. And the Lady Slater, but I don't think anybody got killed on her. She burnt down.
She burnt
down.
She burnt. And there's so many others that, we really need to put these things in perspective when we're looking forward, and when we're doing some forward planning. That is as a nation. And Mark, you want to?
Yeah, I was just saying during the break too that I think that these kind of things should be taught more in the schools. I'm fortunate that my family shared a lot of stories with me growing up, but I'm sure a lot of people might not have that privilege. So I think a lot of Cayman history should definitely be taught in the schools from a young age.
But something too that, Captain, if I may just weigh in on, and I'm looking for guidance from each of you in this sense. I look at Mark. Obviously, from his youthful appearance, he's a lot younger than I am.
Still got here.
Listen, I know you do. and yet, sorry, Captain.
No, I'm going to say I agree with what Mark said.
Yeah.
But think back on it. Who we're going to teach? Where the teachers were coming from.
Right.
So it would have to be later on. I don't know how we had to work it out, but they need to know. Someone needs to know these stories.
Right.
And they couldn't be taught in school because we didn't have the teachers to teach it. So hopefully we can together come up with a way of making this younger generation know where their grandparents came from, what they did, and all of that.
But with that in mind, though, I was just thinking, Mark and I aside, you three fine gentlemen, because of the era in which you lived and the life as it was then, either through the sea or on other means of service, you gravitated towards it. Here, Mark and I raised up in a later time when the formal education, was much more accessible, much more expected, and perhaps of us, we were probably directed towards a different skill set and career path. But I look at, if I could use Mark, since he put it on the table, and even one of my brothers, or both of them, wanting to get the captain's license, wanting to be part of the seafaring heritage, but the challenge to get the certification.
Yeah.
Right. One of my brothers did the 100-ton Coast Guard license, passed it, but isn't an American citizen, so can't get the license, or didn't have access to whatever means to get it. Correct me, because I've always believed that behind the library there was a school that allowed those of us who could do it that somehow no longer exists, and yet we don't have the path no longer carved out for our people, despite having one of the best registries in the world, with perhaps one of the stalwarts of the civil servant in the form of Mr. Walton as helm, and yet if we wanted to navigate that path to become a seafarer, it's almost impossible. But tomorrow, I could. Is that part of the challenge?
Well, it could be, but I believe that, I'm almost sure that the bureaucracy, and I call it bureaucracy, that governs. Well, let's take the U.S. Coast Guard license.
Yeah.
That there are options to where non-U.S. citizens can acquire some level of licenseship within that would fall within the ambit of the what shall we say, the reliability of a U.S. Coast Guard license.
Right.
And that is something that, could be explored from, you look back at the what Mr. Oman did with the waiver license, or waiver with immigrant to the U.S. I think we're the only one, but I was told one time that there was some other jurisdiction that also had that opportunity, but there was only two, and Cayman was one of them.
You tell your brother to try the Panamanian license. That's what I got. Yeah, so I didn't have too much of a problem.
Right.
But that's all I needed, because Captain Paul and all these guys that are sailing all over the world, I was sailing down the Gulf and, 500 tons. I say, oh, yeah, that's fine. So I don't want to say that to encourage people to bypass the Coast Guard, because it's like what Mark did was fine. It's
reputable. It's commendable. I mean, it shows you that he has not only the ability, but he understands the importance of having the credentials in today's environment. But I look, and I don't get off track, but I think this is where we disrespect our people, disrespect our history, and tell our people, in order to get this, you need to go there. Well, you can't go to a two-bit no-good place if you expect to elevate yourself. You need to, like a business will do, to elevate itself, it benchmarks against the best of the best. If this company is good for customer service, then you find that company in which to say, well, let me see if I can get to that level.
I just want to put in here, Mark's got a U.S. Coast Guard license, but I wonder how many canoes have you been able to carry?
One or two. But that's the thing. I mean, we grew up with this in our veins, right? And yet, for those who, but for me, I believe the intellect, the aptitude, and all of that acumen that is required for you to be of that stature is high intelligence. Not because you passed to become a lawyer, a doctor, or an educator, that you're smarter to be, a ship's captain, a bona fide ship's captain. Mark, if I could say, like young Mr. Market, Captain Mark.
You got to have a passion too, right? I think
that's it.
I think definitely when you speak to people that love the sea, it's a passion. It's not for everybody, for sure.
Right.
And you got to have a good head. You got to have a good head. You got to
exactly.
You got to be sensible. You have to be strong. Mindful.
Yeah.
You can't.
But you need that avenue in order to get it to show that you got it, right? Yeah. Anyway, it's just one of those. Anyway, Miss Loxley.
No, well, I think it's news time. So
see what about
time.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. Caribbean Utility Company announced today its unaudited results for the 3- and 6-month periods ending June 30th, 2021. CUC says the results for the company for the 3 months ending June 30th reflect the reopening of businesses and the start of the economic recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic, with the period recording an increase in sales and earnings, as well as an increase in the customer base. In international headlines, Europe emerged from a double-dip recession in the second quarter with stronger than expected growth of 2% over the quarter before. That according to official figures released today. As pandemic restrictions eased, consumers started spending built-up savings, and major companies showed stronger results. But the economy in 19 countries that use the shared euro currency still lagged behind pre-pandemic levels and trailed the faster recoveries in the U.S. and China, as the highly transmissible Delta virus variant cast a shadow of uncertainty over the upturn. The first flight of evacuating Afghans who worked alongside Americans in Afghanistan brought more than 200 people, including scores of children and babies in arms, to new lives in the U.S. today. President Joe Biden said he was proud to welcome them home. The launch of the evacuation flight, bringing out former interpreters and others who fear retaliation from Afghanistan's Taliban for having worked with American troops and civilians, highlights American uncertainty about how Afghanistan's government and military will fare after the last U.S. combat forces leave that country in coming weeks. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
you see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
The HSA Specialist Clinic has relocated to a new, modern, state-of-the-art facility at Smith Road Center to offer you a better patient experience. Receive care from top specialists in chiropractic, complementary and alternative medicine, neurology, ENT, urology, pain management, and more. Our orthopedic and telemedicine clinics remain at the Cayman Islands Hospital campus. Please remember to bring your own face mask when visiting any HSA location. Visit our website, hsa.ky, to learn more. At the HSA, you matter to us.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Drapes. Puritan Cleaners now offering 12% off on drapes pickup and delivery. Unhang and rehang at $9.65 per hour optional. To our hospitality services, let us help you be ready. Before attempting to remove rubber back drapes, please give us a call. Puritan Cleaners, Eastern Avenue 949-7104. Elgin Avenue 949-2452. Savannah Countryside 946-1884. We can make your rooms look good.
For the first time in over 45 years, the University College of the Cayman Islands is having an alumni homecoming gala dinner on October 28th. The event highlights the kickoff of the UCCI Alumni Network, a community of professionals helping the university and one another. If you're a UCCI graduate, join the network today and let your fellow classmates know about it. Visit ucci.edu.ky/alumni and come give us a hand with UCCI's first ever homecoming.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And we're back relating the Nunoca story. And a reminder here that the Nunoca story on Radio Cayman, CI Retro Talk Today, is being brought to you by Office Supply, located in the Marquee Plaza. Back to school supplies, widest selection, and lowest prices. Up to 20% discount on school supplies. And you can enter to win a laptop, printer, and tablet. So, check them out at Office Supply for all the school supplies. Their number, 946-1200, Office Supply. And also by the diner, located at 32 Town Hall Road in West Bay. And you can really get a tasty Caymanian meal at the diner. They've got a lot of fish dishes, and they serve breakfast all day long, and they'll treat you good. They'll feed you well with some delicious food. The diner, located on Town Hall Road, just past the four-way stop in West Bay. New owners, new vibes, taste-tested great local dishes, and a casual, family-friendly dining environment. And time's moving right along, so I think we got to look at some of the press clippings that of the day, and there were many, and I guess if we got some of them flashed up on the screen there. It reads, Coast Guard extends quest for lost ship. 11th day passes with no word from the Nunoca, and that was on July, it looks like the 21st, 1936.
Right.
And there was some reference made a while ago to finding a barrel, and one of the headlines was, Find barrel and wreckage near course of Nunoca, and that was on July the 22nd, 1936. And if we can move along to another one, it says, Noca's mysterious disappearance turns light on Cayman folks. And this was on the 23rd of July, 1936. And a lot of these things came from the Tampa Tribune Library and the Miami News and Miami Herald. They did quite a lot of coverage on the disappearance of the Nunoca. And I believe we got a few more that maybe we can move on to yes. And you see this one here with the name we mentioned a while ago, Captain Laureen Hennings, whose young son, Loxley, and wife, Anisa, was on the Nunoca. And we can actually read this one. It says, it heads, Still Hopes. S.L. Hennings, son of Laureen Hennings, stares at a piece of wreckage thought by Coast Guard to be part of the lost Nunoca, on which his wife and 7-year-old son were passengers. They were coming to Tampa, Miami. Of course, I think they would have spent some time in Miami and Tampa to visit him. Henning said he still believes they are alive. Hope. And we look at another press clipping, which was, and this kind of relates back to all the stories that were coming out about the time. And the headlines, Message in Bottle Tells Murder Tale. Now, I'll go on to read it. I think I can. Note reportedly found from vanished Nunoca on island near St. Petersburg. And that could have been Egmont Key or somewhere out in that area. And I'll just read a little bit of it. Investigations into the mysterious disappearance nearly 2 years ago, and this was 2 years after that, of the motorship Nunoca carrying 22 persons, including 9 Americans and 4 British subjects, and a crew of 9 men, were remnants here, or renewed here Thursday, with announcements by that's Lieutenant C.F. Edge, commander of the local Coast Guard air station, that a bottled note, possibility, I guess, written about the motorship was found on a nearby island. The note, scribbled with pencil and already yellowed from age, was found in a whiskey bottle, still sealed with a badly corroded metal cap. Captain, it read, mutiny on the officer, and I killed all of the passengers, and they are headed for Nigeria. Now, that was a prevalent, report of the day, that she had went to Nigeria in Africa. And the name is Signeni, I guess, or Signerhad Captain. And it ends up by saying it may be a hoax, but there is still a possibility of something interesting in this, Lieutenant Edge said after announcing he would report the message to divisional headquarters. And I believe, do we have maybe another one? Yes, and this one reads, raft identified as one aboard missing ship. That was July in 1936. all hope given up for Nunoca's 22 lives lost. So I think, and the raft, as I recall, I might be able to read a little bit more here from this, that was identified at the St. Petersburg Coast Guard station by the agent in Tampa at the time, who was came as coming from the Nunoca, and I can't come up with a name, but you know, that I think that sort of really crystallized that, you know, the Nunoca was lost, and you know, there would be no more, I guess, connection with the Nunoca. And I think, you know, there are lots of telegrams that came back and forth, and they will, I guess, really be in the National Archives somewhere along the line. I intend to turn over what I have to our National Archives. And here's another report that came in, and this one read, Nunoca is reported under tow in Gulf. You know, the English ship Nunoca, missing since July the 4th, was said in one report today to be in tow of the United States Coast Guard vessel. They even named the Coast Guard vessel C.G. McLean in the Gulf of Mexico. So that was also an erroneous report.
Yes, sir. And as we look at it, here is a proper mark in Captain Owen, part of the challenge. You know, the earlier clip from the newspapers back in '36 indicating that, you know, this message about all these other stories coming back. This other image says additional pieces of wreckage found. Fate of mission British motor ship Nunoca, however, remains mystery. Right. So coverage that not only in the Cayman Islands but in Florida.
Something they had fake news from back then.
Yes.
Because I mean, all them different stories it must have been hard for people to.
Yeah.
Like he's giving you hope and then boom, it's gone again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, a lot of stories wrong.
A lot of stories.
And even to this day, you know.
And I did talk to that man because he was supposed to receive a letter.
But you referenced she left West Bay and walked
up South Sound.
To South Sound. She didn't call it Uber or Uber or
they wouldn't do that.
Right? She didn't ride a bicycle?
No, she walked. Ride no bicycle.
She walked.
But the fact that she heard that letter came from this man's son, gave her the pep to go up there.
Hope. And we got a few minutes left before we have to close off, and you know, we'd entertain a brief, succinct call or two if those that are listening.
Yes, sir. Would you like me to cycle through some other photographs, Mr. Loxley?
Yes, you can do that, and we can identify them if they're coming up on YouTube. So,
Loxley, could you read a poem that Miss Ellie Eden wrote about?
Okay.
I think that would be a.
And then, yes, sir. So, as Miss Loxley, if you wish, Mark is an avid reader, and he has such an eloquent voice. If not, I'll do it for you. But on the screen is, you know,
ask me to do it.
Actually, DJ Lynn has a nice voice, you know.
You ought to take the copy over there for.
Yeah,
well, he's on the telephone, so.
I think he's ordering lunch.
We got a call. So
all right.
Maybe Mark can read that.
Yeah. If Mark is.
You're a poet.
Yeah, but the reason why we want to read it because you can see it. Maybe I'll read it. But we do have a caller. Perhaps you take that call first, Mr. Loxley.
Yes.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for listening, and thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Clarence. How are you all today?
Good afternoon, Mr. Clarence, sir. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I just want to remind Loxley about the conversations that we had with our mothers and aunts and uncles about Uncle Sam seeing this spirit following him down the road. I just want to also remind him of Loxley, which was the son that was on the boat with his mother. When he was leaving, when they were going aboard the boat, his sisters asked, he told his sisters he didn't want to go. And they asked him why, and he said, because I cannot swim. So that just sort of shows you that, there was some feeling going on from the beginning, for him to just say, I don't want to go, and his answer was, I do not know how to swim.
Yes, well,
I'd like to remind Loxley about that.
Yeah, well, and I was going to try to get this little bit in also. And Captain Owen, you knew Larry Ebanks,
yes,
who was around Loxley's age.
Right.
And he related to me years and years later that he remembers the evening, Saturday evening, that the Nunoca was to sail, and him and Loxley was good friends. The houses were separated by a grass piece. And he walked, and the words he used, I walked across the grass piece to say goodbye to Loxley, and he told me, I really don't want to go without Sam. And as you see, they're flashing up on our screen, and here, anyway, you see a picture of 7-year-old Loxley Henning, who was on the boat, and Anisa Henning, his mother. But Lawrence, or Larry as he was known, related that to me, and this was I guess 75 years after the Nunoca had gone, and he said that was still resonating with him. And I think we got some calls, and that's up there was the picture of Sam Hennings, the other brother that you heard from earlier.
So, all right, so go to the phones, Mr. Loxley. Hey, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen all. Just a quick little input. Will this program be airing again? Because, due to circumstances, I wanted to hear more about the Nunoca, but because of circumstances, I only got to hear snippets,
Yeah, it'll be repeated.
Airing again?
Yes, it will be repeated twice after this. Not this Sunday, but the Sunday following, I think, which is August 9th. Yeah, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the following Thursday at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Okay. And my story in Nunoca is, I remember my father, this is Harwell, my father telling me he was a teenager, working when Nunoca was sailing. He said he watched her sail out of sight till he couldn't see the smoke anymore, wishing that he was on her, wishing that he could have been on her to go to Tampa. And sometimes everything you wish for is not the best.
Right, true, yes. Well, thank you, Harwell. That's important information that, and your father, of course, I think I'm identifying you as Mr. McCoy's, Mr. Harry McCoy's son.
Yes, sir. And it will be rebroadcast, but it's also on YouTube. Just hit the Video Cayman channel. Those who want to see it again. Take some more calls, Mr. Loxley.
Yes.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you too for joining us.
Good afternoon, sir, and doing good afternoon, Mr. Loxley, Captain Paul, and the others.
And Captain Wayne Farrington and Captain Mark Rothwell.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the other two names. So.
Yes, sir.
My grandfather's brother was actually the chief engineer there, Thomas Hopkins Ebanks.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the only brother that they had, and there was one sister, Myrtle, and then of course George Ebanks. So he was lost in that voyage as well.
Yes, well,
young children.
Yeah. As we mentioned, this tragedy still resonates with a lot of families, and it touched so many families in Cayman, as did the other, maritime tragedies. And it's something I think that we can't forget, or we should never forget. And thank you for your call. I think we got another call.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Green.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Captain Paul, Captain Owen, Loxley.
Thank you.
And young Mark, you're Captain Mark.
Yes, sir.
It's a pity you waited until so late to give people a chance to talk, but it doesn't really matter. In the long run of things.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can hear the laughing in the background, but
we're glad to hear you, sir.
My father was one who helped to build that vessel, and he often talked about it.
Yes, sir.
I'm amazed that more people don't remember it, talking about it, because in the 1950s, that's all a lot of Caymanians are talking about. Of course, we lost a lot of lives to Carmania in 1932, and the Melpomene also in Carmania, 23 people in the 32 hurricane, and there were many at sea, sadly. That's our life, sea life. But there are people alive, a couple of people, I believe, whose father was lost on that vessel. And I remember very well Miss Grasser, Christian, her husband, I think he was Calvin, he lost his life on it also. And with the theory Captain Paul had put forward, I remember my father talking about that a lot, that he thought she had caught on fire and went down very quickly. Because on the heading to the southwest, my father had thought that he was 34 years, nearly 35 at the time. So I remember very well that he taught me that the chief engineer was trying out in case he had to turn back, something like that. My father, this is 60 odd years ago, father was saying this. And then before she took the would be a starboard turn towards Tampa, I guess. But that was quite a possibility. We heard all that about taking the Nigeria and things being found, and they did find a barrel an empty barrel, I believe, and things from her. But also, we stepped aside from the maritime heritage when we moved towards the financial world, and it's important that people understand this. Who did we make as our first knight, as our first sir? It wasn't someone from the maritime world. It wasn't an old captain or an old shipbuilder or anything, was it? So that showed that was something we wanted to put in the past. I don't know why we were afraid to say it, but I'll say it. And that is the reason why we end up with this strange position or in trying to tell people how important that was.
Yes, sir.
Well,
island.
Mickey, thanks for your input. A lot of important information there.
I can tell you a lot more, but you don't have the time, as we never do. But have a wonderful day. Listen on.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And your instructions and guidance and direction, Mr. Loxley, I dare to read a poem when you wish.
Yes, well, you got to read it in here pretty soon.
Read it, or you tell me when. Do it now?
Yeah.
So this is a poem composed by Miss Ethelene Eden and Georgetown, Grand Cayman. It's entitled "A Mysterious Tragedy." It's on the 4th of July at 5 o'clock. The Nunoca steamed forth from her Cayman dock. Friends and relatives bid adieu to crew and passengers 22. No one dreamed she'd never again be seen by either foe or friend, for weather reports each day were fair, and for her absent ones with no anxious care. Oh, what a shock when the wireless rang. When did Nunoca leave Grand Cayman? Early in the morning the answer sped on. Quick to her rescue, aid was borne. Aeroplanes and cutters scoured the ocean, causing grief and sad emotion. Day after day they searched in vain, some clue to her missing ones to gain. Radiograms flashed far and wide. She's down in Mexico, drifting with the tide. But oh, it was a great mistake, what caused their hearts with grief to ache. Many are grieving their loved ones gone. We know not where, as there was no storm. The mystery is still unknown, but not to one who's on the throne. He is a judge who rules supreme, and none of us can change his scheme. So let us trust and humbly wait some day to learn of Nunoca's fate.
Yeah, well, you hear the faith really wound into that, and there was, there were many poems that was written about it. Like another one was, it was headed the ship that never returned, and it goes through basically the same scenario, but in a little different form. And it, as we said, it was really the big story of that era.
And not to take away from it, but sort of to connect it. If we think, well, for me anyway, how we've recorded our history in song and poetry and the like, and we take to our national song, Miss Lita Ross's, her writings, but even that, how the maritime history and heritage plays so easily into who we are, but the ethos of a people of faith, prayerful, who are willing to accept the divine hand, even when it seems like there is no way or know how to understand what has transpired. It's evident in this poem, like so many, like in the national song. So that faith, Mr. Loxley, and that belief, kind of keeps us on today.
Well, yeah, and we talk about faith, and I don't think we want to repeat the report, but Captain Paul may have heard it, maybe even Captain Nguyen, but there was a story, and I would not wish to repeat it here, about the Bible and the engineer sitting reading the Bible and the Bible being thrown overseas, not by the engineer, but I think Captain Paul Young, but we don't want to. No. So,
but another part of our history that we don't want to repeat, that we know that we
well, yeah, because
exactly,
it has some.
Still unsettled nerves, though.
Yes, and the history, and we really need to know where we came from, how we got here, and through the sacrifices and the hard work, and it's a story that I don't suppose we'll ever know the real reason. Only by and by that will we know. Because I think a lot of us are.
Yes, and this is. I'll be guided by your collective wisdom, but I keep sharing with people in recent times, especially with what is transpiring globally, what is happening here locally, not just from the economic, financial perspective, the social, the political, and all this stuff. But if Cayman is what we think it is, if those of us who have come here and are living here, this is where our bread is buttered, where we intend to lay our heads, maybe where our wealth is made, let's find a way to come together with respect, not to dismiss nor to forget where we come from, where our ancestral links are, but to collectively work to make this place better, safer in so many respects.
Well, let me see if I can get through what I just...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What I just started, I think that many of us are hoping to meet up with these people on the other side someday. And we'll all know.
Yeah.
For many years, I harbored the thoughts that I would see my uncle and my grandmother somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I just thought that they would... I mean, it's...
And that emotion is why I was sharing, because at the end of the day, whatever we believe, we're going to find some connection somewhere. So if we live good here, whatever that is that we get there, just that expectation that we'll see. This poem captures that faith.
Yes.
Miss Lita Ross's national song and her other writings embodies that faith. And for those who subscribe to it, whatever we're feeling right this minute, because of personal or financial circumstance, it is probably what gives us hope in the midst of despair. And in a small place like this, in a time like this, with whatever notions and expectations and miscalculations or connotations or whatever you ascribe to whatever is transpiring, without faith there's hopelessness. With a sense of despair, you become despondent. With that is growing division and discord, and with that discontentment. What would then come of it? But for faith, we would be lost.
Mr. Sterling, I can see that you really enjoyed listening to this story. I wish we could tell you something to tell these people how to go and get vaccinated.
And I have another wish too, but yeah.
Well, I think we're about at the end of the program here, gentlemen. We want to thank you all, Captain Mark, for coming on and sharing your thoughts. Captain Paul, a wealth of information. Anytime he's willing to serve it up for us. Captain Owen, thank you all for coming in, and of course our callers, Mickey and the other one. Mickey has a wealth of information, and someday, and we have said this, we're gonna bring him in the studio here and give him a microphone, and we'll set the computer to expire midnight and then let him
download.
Let him talk. But we'll remind you that CI Retro's today's presentation was brought to you by Thompson Shipping, and Thompson can handle all your inter-island or off-island shipping, and by The Diner, where you'll find delicious Cayman food, and they serve breakfast all day. They're in West Bay, just down from the four-way stop. Office Supply, big supply now of school supplies, and they're offering up to, I think it's 20% off, I guess, on selected items, as the story would go. Cayman Coating, where you'll find all your paints and you'll find all your wall coverings, and they've got a lot of things there that would interest you. Those of us who like to we call it piddle around in housework, and we go in there, there's more things that will come out than we walked in with. And by Puritan Cleaners, of course. Puritan Cleaners, they're the original cleaners here in Cayman, and they provide a service. They got 3 locations, Eastern Avenue, Elgin Avenue, just down from where we're at here, and also at the Countryside Shopping Center in Savannah, Newlands, and by MJS Plumbing. And MJS, Mervyn and his crew can handle all of your plumbing needs, no matter what it is. You give Mervyn a call, MJS, and they're sure to be at your calling and handle all of your plumbing needs. And with that, Sterling, thank you for guiding this to guide this program along. And again, gentlemen, thanks. And I guess we could have used another half an hour here, but as the bureaucracy goes, that's this is the end of the program. Listeners, thank you for calling in, and maybe someday someone else will pick this story up and continue it, because there's a very good possibility that there will be added information that will come out.
I hope so.
Yeah, and you never know really where it'll come. So, Mark,
keep researching.
Yeah, keep researching. Keep your eye on Noah, because I think if there is to be some more substantial information to come out, this is probably where it will emanate from. Yeah. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Loxley, Captain Owen, Captain Paul, and Captain Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and to our listeners, as you said, sir. And it is an honor to sit with you. Thank you for including me, even sometimes just vicariously, but to be able to sit intimately with you and learn and to share in their history. It's empowering. It's a stark reminder of who we are and why we are, and thank you, sir.
Well, it goes back, well, Captain Owen is a little bit older than I am, but I remember going, and I think it was your dad's putt that he had, or it might have been a catboat, fishing for goggle eyes. I think we caught 365, you and I and Bruce Borden, whose father was on the Nunoca.
Yeah, that's right. We should have mentioned that. We mentioned about my ex-father-in-law and his brother, John. That was Bruce Borden's father, and Davis Borden.
Davis Borden.
Yeah.
And they had a daughter named Leon.
Yes. So it's a again.
Yes,
those
sir.
are the-
Yes, sir. Well, to our listeners, thank you very much, and thank you for all who serve this country in a way that exhibits a wonderful heritage of love, support, nurturing, care, concern, and compassion. Please have a wonderful, beautiful, blessed weekend. Come back for more Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. Stay tuned to Radio Cayman for any and everything from entertainment, information, education, and empowerment. Until Monday, my friends, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.